for the record. Okay.
Madam President,
Yes.
I was going to ask, can we have the election committee put their emails in the chat just to confirm we have the accurate ones?
Yes. All 5 members who were just elected to the election committee, please put your emails into the chat.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So now I believe we have completed the election process for 2022. The only thing that, oh, I'm sorry, there's one more thing. Effective immediately for the 2 people who are running for first vice president, you can now do outreach to let individuals know that you are running. That's 1. 2, you can prepare a flyer to go out to the membership. However, that flyer needs to go to Angelina Ville, and Angelina will send that flyer out together at the same time, either Monday or Tuesday of next week. If you get it to her in time, she could probably send it by Monday, but Tuesday would be the latest, because remember what I said about the 13th of the month being the day, the last day at midnight that you can become a member to join in order to vote. So if you need to devise a flyer at this time, and you can start advertising, but only 1 person can send it out to the membership, your flyer, and that person will be Angelina Ville. And Angelina is selected because Stacy's the secretary and she's running for first vice. So that please prepare your information for that. So I want to make sure that happened. Now, if there's any, are there any questions regarding the election procedures before we touch on the agenda quickly? And prepare to have my president's report. Try to find it real quick. Any questions regarding the election procedures? Okay, we have a full schedule, and I knew this piece would take time, and so I'm glad we did start on time. So at this time, without looking at the agenda, I think it's the president's summary report. And so at this time, I don't know who has a copy of my president's report. It's lengthy, so, and can you make it a little bit bigger? I'm not going to go through the whole thing, only because we do have a long day. But my glasses. Okay, so I am proud of the fact that the governor did sign a bill that we lobbied for, AB 740, and it was Kevin McCarty that sponsored the bill. And basically it's saying that foster kids can have representation when being expelled and suspended from schools. And the way the bill was presently written, if you're expelled or suspended from schools, you can have your parent, your lawyer for any other child, except for foster kids. They would just be automatically expelled with no representation. And so that, so we did have a press conference regarding that. However, there is going to be a new report that's going to come out, if it hasn't already. I know Professor Luke Woods was working on trying to get something out this week, but I don't think it went out, but it's going to go out next week. And what it's going to give an update on the expulsion suspension report. So one of the things that's glaring that will come out that you'll know now before any media posts. Once again, in the Sacramento County, we are the highest as far as suspension and expulsions for Black young men, Black kids in general. But the glaring piece is that the #1 offender is Elk Grove School District. They were on the list last year, but they weren't #1. They have increased the number of suspensions since then. And so I have asked the education chair, Selena, to reach out to the Elk Grove School District. And the #1 offender, as far as schools are concerned in Sacramento, is Samuel Jackman. which is a middle school in the South area, Meadowview area. It actually, on between, this report was done based on 2019, 2020, during the COVID, when most of the schools' suspension rates went down because folks were learning online. So it was pretty hard to suspend or individuals. However, Samuel Jackson seemed not to have had a problem. Their suspension rate was at 53%, I believe it was. It was bad. And so what it meant, they only have 195 Black individuals in their school, 195. And so based on the stats that Professor Woods is going to be presenting, that meant every Black student was suspended or expelled at least 6.8 times, 7 times. So we did ask for a meeting with that principal, along with Elk Grove's superintendent, along with Professor Woods, Selena and myself, and the other 2 schools that came in second and third place was T.R. Spedberg and Sheldon High School. And so we've requested for those principals to be in attendance as well. And I need to make a correction on the APAPA candidates is District 10, not District 9. But keep scrolling. Let me go. I'm just going to try to hit the highlights because of the African American Economic Council. Oh, okay. So we do have a flyer that we're going to show later, but I'm also part of the African American Coalition for Economic Committee for this governor, and we will be hosting a 2022 proposition forum on October 13th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. It's all 7 propositions that's going to be on the ballot, the pro and con, so that we can educate our committee, our community on what those propositions are. A lot of people are getting mixed messages on a number of them. One is not being contested at all. And so we'll just mention that one, but the other 6, you guys have been bombarded with commercials, and you may not know which way to vote. So because of that, we've asked many of the authors of those propositions to be present so that we can educate the community of what those propositions are. And so that will be going out on our newsletter as well. I believe it already has, but we're going to send it again. I did participate in the Black Chambers Summit in their panel, which was very good. The Dine-In 2 program, it's still going great. Last month, we served 5,000 meal kits to the county of Sacramento that has zip codes in food deserts where they otherwise would not be receiving food or could go to the grocery store within miles of their home. And so a meal kit consists of breakfast, lunch, and dinner for each member of the family. And so we have 12 restaurants involved in that. 90% of those restaurants are minority or African Americans. And so they've been doing an excellent job. As a result of this program, something that we did not see, some of those restaurants have a free diaper program to families. So we have also been delivering diapers. And because the increase in revenue and work because of the Dine-In 2 program, the restaurants had to staff up and hire more. So some of those families who are receiving meals are asking for jobs, and those restaurant owners have been able to hire them. And we are working on creating a farmers market in some of those areas. And that information will be coming soon, and it'll be part of our newsletter, and we're going to reach out to our radio as well to let everyone know about that. Sacramento Kings has asked the NAACP to participate in our Kwanzaa event again. I'm real excited about that because they have also engaged all of NBA to recognize Kwanzaa because of what we did last year. And so Kwanzaa is a celebration of our African American roots. and each day is a different word of that celebration. So the Kwanzaa dates always start the day after Christmas and ends on the January 1, 7 days of Kwanzaa. The first day of Kwanzaa is Unity, Ujama. And so we will be celebrating or kicking it off December 26th, which is a Monday. The time right now is a luncheon like we had around the same time last year. So we're looking at 12 to 2. It may change, if anything, it'll still be within the lunch hours. And so we will be needing volunteers to help for all the games that are in that time period. I think there's 2 games that's going to be within those 7 days of Kwanzaa. And so we'll be needing volunteers to help not only be part of that, but we do a t-shirt toss to the crowd. So we'll be asking for help with that. Creating a fundraiser to sell tickets is on the agenda. There are also tickets to be given away. And so if we do that, I'm just going to ask if those individuals who have season tickets not to ask for a free ticket. And so the reason I say that, if we're going to give tickets away to the membership for this Kwanzaa event for those 2 games, what happened last year, a lot of people asked for the tickets and they didn't sit in the seats, and then Kings messed up too. They didn't sit us where we all should have been sitting. So when the camera swung and says, let's celebrate the Sacramento branch of the NAACP, there was like 3 people. It was so embarrassing. So I just want to make sure I plan it better this year. And so that the people who get the tickets are sitting in the seats, because they're going to swing the camera again. And I want to make sure we have butts in seats and so it looks full. So anyone interested in volunteering, I'm just going to ask you to contact the office at contact Nicole Pearson. I think she already put her email in the chat. And Nicole, if you can put the phone number 916-856-0155. If you're interested in volunteering for that. We will also need folks to volunteer for kiosks. We have a kiosk set up there where we give membership and information about the NAACP as well. And they are looking at the Black restaurants that we already have in the Dine In 2 program, and possibly having them serve their dishes during the Kwanzaa week. And right now, when I asked the question, will those restaurants have to pay a fee to be there? They said, as of right now, no. So they would be, I'm sure they're going to have to give the Kings a percentage of whatever they sell, but it will be an opportunity to have the Black restaurants, or 1 or 2 of them, highlight their food. And then we'll also be looking for entertainment to sing the national anthem during one of the games, as well as a choir putting together singing the Black national anthem like we did before. So no, I didn't go through my whole thing, but I just wanted to hit some highlights. Any questions on my president's report? Seeing none, I'll go back to the agenda. I do want to touch bases a little bit. I have to thank Velma for conducting the executive committee meeting for me on Thursday night. And I understand that that there were some things when it came to environmental justice that were discussed and should be highlighted, but I wasn't sure if it's going to be part of the presentation or some new information that we need to share with our group today. And so I'm looking at Larissa and Lynn for that. Is there any highlights from the Environmental Justice Committee, or that's not going to be part of the presentation?
I think we'll end up working it in.
Okay. Unfinished business status of the convention. We have paid for the registration and got the rooms ready. Thank you, Stacy, for making that happen for all 8 delegates to go to Los Angeles. We will be at the LAX Marriott from the 21st to the 23rd. The status of the cease and desist letter. If we can pull that letter up, and I'll explain it while you're trying to find that letter from Justin. So the former chief of police for Rancho Cordova, Katie Adams, sent a letter to me asking me to cease and desist my request to find out more information regarding her early retirement after sending, I don't know if most of you saw the picture of the white man with the water hose on the little black young man and using the N-word. And so we asked for a full investigation of that and who was responsible for that. And so she had the nerve to send me a letter to cease and desist. And she, in addition to that, she is suing the sheriff's department. And she did explain that she didn't go into an early retirement, but she was asked to resign. So our legal redress attorney, Justin Ward, the letter that you see before you right now, and gave me a deadline of like September 7th or some stuff. So Justin responded to her letter on behalf of myself and the NAACP and explained to them that we will always do full investigations. And she claimed that my letter was defamation of character because she has not been able to find a job since we asked for the investigation. And so I was not retracting anything. The investigation is still going forward, and I will be working with my team to ask for additional information. We're asking for a public information request for more detail of what happened during that time. So I just wanted this group to know the status of that cease and desist that the former chief had sent me. Any questions? Okay. Next on the agenda, let's see, it's 11:20. How are we doing on time? Okay. I need to see the agenda. Thank you, guys. Okay, went away. What happened? Okay. So new business, Kelly Keys wrongfully arrested and detained with SAC PD. This case, I'm going to be pulling in Lynn and Justin on this one. Kelly Keys, if anybody knows Kelly, if you know Shonda that does all the artwork for everybody on 24th and Florin, is her husband. And so he was stopped in the Meadowview area. They arrested him for driving drunk. What I know of Kelly Keys personally, he's never taken a drink or drugs in his entire life. He's just never had. And so what it was, he's diabetic and he passed out and they thought he was drunk. And he spent the night in jail. The DA, they did end up doing a blood test on him to determine what drug, if any, or alcohol, if any. And the DA came back and said there was nothing found in his system, which they shouldn't have found it. He's never taken anything. And so, however, they came back and he still has to go. And so I'm trying to get his charges dropped. So the new charges are he was stopped because of suspended license, but you cannot change the original stop because you didn't find drugs or alcohol in the system. And so, and he wasn't even aware that his license was suspended because, he just didn't do it in time. It's fine now. And he says, but he had to find that out in court. He thought that he went to court. He thought they were going to drop it, and only to find out that the police department filed new charges of driving on a suspended license. So I'm working on that with him. And so I just wanted all of you to be aware of this particular case. The other piece that's not on there, the original reason for the stop was a DUI, just so you know. And then they let her find out that he didn't have any of that. Many of you may have seen the video of Yuba City High School. of the Black young men being auctioned off as slaves, the football players. I thought that was Butte NAACP, but they came back quickly and says, nope, that's Sacramento. So we are reaching out to Yuba to deal with that. A couple of things with that. In some cases, those Black young men thought that it was okay, and so we need to do some education to our youth that that was not okay. It was not okay for them to be framed in that manner with just their underwear on, looking down with chains and being auctioned by the white football players as their slaves. It was not okay. And so since then, what the school has done is suspended the entire football team. But I believe it needs to go beyond that. And so that we'll be asking to meet with their district. There's another piece that hasn't hit the media yet, and they've been very quiet about it, but it's Amador County had a 2-3 weeks ago, they had a game scheduled with Rosemont High School. And Amador County had put out credible information that they wanted to kill all the Black players in Rosemont High School on the day of the game. They canceled, Amador canceled that game and did a immediate suspension until further notice to investigate what was going on. During the investigation, what I do know, they found out credible information where these folks were truly talking about killing Black players. So much so that the Amador School District superintendent sent out a letter that they suspended the entire football team and 3 coaches for the year. So things are really bad. So we will be following up with that as well, but I just wanted to share that. Any questions regarding that? Or any of the things that I just brought up? I know it's crazy, right? It's just crazy. With that being said, we want to remind you that we have legal redress every 3rd Saturday from 10 to 12. It's via Zoom. The links are there. What helps is that when you go to our website, sacnacp.com, there's a button there where you can push complaints and then fill out the form. And that helps the legal redress team, Justin and Lynn, and actually Nicole pulls a lot of those too and gets it to them, so that, and remind people that we have free attorneys, whether you're a member or not, to look at your concerns and address them for free. And so that's every 3rd Saturday from 10 to 12 via Zoom. And the information is confidential. You go into a room, a virtual room with just you and the attorney, and so that you can deal with those issues on a personal level. In addition, we have expungement process available for anyone that's interested in getting their records expunged. Any additional information on that, Lynn, when it comes to the legal redress expungement, legal redress clinic?
I just want to make sure people understand too that the attorneys don't take the case. So they help you in that moment, but they're not agreeing to take on the case. They will refer you to an attorney if you need further help. But I just want to make sure that we're clear about that.
Okay. And as you see, we have work for everyone in the greater Sacramento area that wants to volunteer for the NAACP. There's a sign-up form. Just click that link or put your email in the chat. We have, as you see from the office report, and I'm sure those office reports don't touch half the things that they do. They try to capture as much information as possible. To have 400 issues a month for one person to handle is a lot, and 22 executive committee members that are sending things as well. I just want to let you know we would love to have your ongoing help. And so any announcements before we go into the town hall? that we may have forgotten. And my last announcement, please make sure, next month we will not be having a general membership meeting for the month of November because of the election. So the elections will be again from 10 to 12. I'm sorry, 10 to 2. Be checking your email, be checking your cell phone for text for that ballot. If you don't receive a ballot, contact Stacy. I think she already put her information into the chat. National says that all unit secretaries will be able to respond to them immediately if someone is saying that they did not receive a ballot. Do it early. It's kind of hard if you are contacting Stacy at 1:45, and then she has to contact National, and National will probably tell her, I'm sorry. And it could be something as simple that we put a .net versus a .com and you didn't receive your email. And so they have the ability to do an edit based on the training that we received to change it so that you can get the correct ballot or get your ballot because a typo was created. So put that down on your calendars. Those who are running, remember to vote for yourself. And those who are interested in becoming part of the executive committee but did not is not part of this process, I have appointment power to appoint people to the executive committee after the election. So with that, if there's no more announcements, I am going to hand it over to Lynn to start the town hall that will cover the environmental water crisis. Are we on we are on Facebook Live. Thank you for joining Facebook Live. We are the Greater Sacramento NAACP that will be starting our town hall meeting. And we will be discussing a lot when it comes to environmental justice and climate change. And so at this time, I am going to introduce our legal redress / everything else, Len Berkeley Bascom, part of our executive committee, to start that town hall meeting. Thank you, Len.
Thank you, Madam President. So I'd like to kind of center this. We originally were going to do both some environmental discussions about water and our water crisis with contamination, and talk about the jail. But because we have about 30 minutes, we're going to focus on water today, and we'll circle back with everyone about the jail. So today I'd like to welcome specifically Herman Barjona.
I'm sorry, Lynn, can you
Yes.
do a little bit about the jail? I'm okay with going a little bit over if we can do that too. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, I could do that at the end. I can kind of tag it in at the end. Yeah.
Great.
Yep. So I'll go back to Armand. Thank you, Armand, for being here today. He's with, going to switch back and forth here. He's with the Sacramento Environmental Justice Coalition. He's their lead community organizer. And we also have Larissa Wells, who is our resident expert. Larissa is the NAACP Environmental Justice Chair for our branch. And she's also the Senior Director of Educational Equity and Research for Visions 1, and I'm hoping I get this right, the Environmental Equity Education and Policy, called VEEP. And did I say that right, Larissa? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, you did.
Okay. Okay. And Armand, did I properly introduce you? Did I miss something? Okay, we're good. So what I was hoping to do, Armand, is kind of give you some time right at the beginning to present about some of the facts you've been finding about water in the Sacramento area. And I'll just turn it over to you and kind of interject when needed.
Actually, and thank you everybody for having me. This is a real honor. Thank you, Madam President and members of the NAACP. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got to this place. So it include a little bit of what's going on with water and air quality in Sacramento. But I first want to tell you that my introduction to social justice really started out of South Central LA, where I grew up. And I lived next to the city of Vernon. And if any of you know the city of Vernon, it's one of the most dangerous polluters in the south part of Los Angeles, where many people to this day are suffering from all kinds of public health issues because of the serious contamination of lead, arsenic, and other kinds of bad stuff that people are breathing and drinking in that area. My family personally was impacted by all kinds of severe conditions related to these kinds of toxins. But my world in community organizing was around housing, around community development issues, public safety issues. So I'm not an environmentalist. Let me start with that. I'm not an environmentalist, but what you do learn with any kind of community organizing effort is that you quickly realize who has the power and who doesn't. And those who don't usually carry the biggest burden of all the benefits and privileges of the power. So this is how we created the Sacramento Environmental Justice Coalition here in Sacramento. We began having a conversation about federal regulatory air quality monitors. And let me show you a picture if I can share the screen. Oh, I don't have access to share a screen, but I wanted to share a picture of the what I call the locations, and this is, we got this data from the Air Quality Management District. They're the regulatory agency that handles air quality in our neighborhoods. So let me see, let me know when.
Are we able to help Armand share screen?
Yeah, I was just texting, Stacy or Angelina, who's handling the screen?
Janice, are you on? And also Angelina, I'm not the host anymore, so.
I'm sorry, what is needed?
You need to make it where they can share their screen, share screen for everyone.
So as that gets set up, I want to say that in South Sacramento, you have the highest rates of asthma and chronic health conditions than any other part of the county. There are parts of North Sacramento that are suffering the same or even worse, like North Highlands. But in South Sacramento, what it will seem very interesting is that the concentration of Black and brown folks that live there are having to reside next to all kinds of commercial, industrial polluters, in which the local air quality management district has issued about close to 5,000 permits. Most of them are concentrated in South Sacramento and parts of North Sacramento. And this kind of, redlining is what's making our kids sick. And it's not just for a short period of time, it's from the cradle to, from the womb to the tomb. And that's one of the conversations we're having with our partners about what are the chances our kids will have, what are they gonna have in this new economy when they can't pass algebra because lead poisoning is a big issue in their bloodstream or other chronic health conditions that prevent them from getting a quality education and having access to the economy of this amazing state. So let me show you this picture real quick. This is where we began.
Your call may be recorded in.
I'm showing you a picture of the location of the federal regulatory air quality monitors in Sacramento. And you'll see them in the red balloons. But if you notice, South Sacramento, all the way from, really from Lemon Hill, all the way down to the borders of Elk Grove, there is no federal regulatory monitors. And these monitors are the enforcement tools to make sure that there are no violations of the Clean Air Act, okay? Now, let me show you another picture. Do you see this one, where the tree canopy is? South Sacramento has the least amount of trees, and yet all taxpayers in the city of Sacramento pay taxes to prune and water the trees for the wealthy areas of Sacramento. But when we go to city council and say, hey, we'd like the same amount of trees, equal access, because we're equally paying taxes, they keep saying it's too expensive for South Sacramento to have a tree canopy. Trees are the most natural way to filter toxins out of the air, especially carbon dioxide. Now, another picture I want to show you is the state of California Environmental Justice branch, actually is the Office of Health Hazards. They have this really good data called the EnviroScreen, and you can log on anytime, it's online, to look at the hotspots of the worst air quality in Sacramento or any part of the state. And you'll see there the South Sacramento suffers some of the worst air quality conditions, along with drinking water issues in the region. And these red, orange, and yellow zones, those are not good colors to be identified for when it comes to environmental justice issues. So you have entire families for generations being exposed to lead from housing, groundwater threats, and particulate matter 2.5, which is a very toxic, microscopic particulates that get into your lungs, heart, your brain, everything. And it causes havoc in human health. And so for us in the coalition, when we came together, we decided that we're gonna start putting together an education campaign, which is what we're doing now in a number of organizations. And I'll show you the partners that started this coalition. We'll go back to the very beginning here. All of our partners, give me a second, find this. All of our partners are involved one way or another in public health or have residents that live in environmental justice zones. Here we go. So I just wanted to show that to you. They really are the ones that help put together this coalition to begin the discussion and take some action, start getting some things done. And I'll talk a little bit about what we have gotten done so far. The coalition, if you see at the bottom of this page, is made up by the Community Resources Project. They handle a lot of the weatherization programs in town, energy savings programs, and also the WIC program. The Diocese of Sacramento has become a very close ally because of the Pope's letter in 2015. There was a call to action to the world about taking action on environmental injustice around the world, because his argument in his letter, Laudato Si, says that the poor and people of color are the ones paying the price for all these climate disasters that are happening around the world. The Latino Leadership Council, they're based out of Northern Sacramento and Placer County. The California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation, they help us with a lot of the technical assistance on legal issues. 350 Sacramento has been a long-time climate justice group here in Sacramento, the California Endowment, and of course the Hub, Building Healthy Communities, and our fiscal agent, Her Health First, which does neonatal and prenatal healthcare for women of color in South Sacramento. These partners came together to hire me as their organizer. And they said, look, let's do some organizing, let's do some curricula development, and let's start training people about what this means. I wish I could see a show of hands here, but just let me ask you real quick here. How many of you know somebody who has asthma? And you can do a show of hands depending on your screen. When we ask this in the church temple, it's almost 80 to 95% of people raise their hands saying, I know somebody with asthma. That's a preventable disease, but it's really affecting men and women of color in our communities. And so my request to you today, as we come into this conversation, is that we begin a conversation together, and hopefully together we can leverage some of these issues to start finding some resolutions that are going to start cleaning up the environmental mess that redlining and historical racism has done in Sacramento.
So can I interrupt you there, Armand?
Yes.
So I think that before you go into what you've actually done, and I know that you and I had a discussion not too long ago about water, is I'm going to have, if it's okay, I think this would be a good time for Larissa to chime in about some things that she's been talking about to the NAACP, so that the two of you then might be able to have some conversation about what you're doing and what Larissa is doing. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Great. Oh, and also before you start, Larissa, there was a request from Nicole to put the website, Herman, if you could put the website that you mentioned in the chat. Thanks so much. Take it away, Larissa.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Larissa Wells, and I am the Environmental Justice Chair for the Greater Sacramento NAACP 1060. So I am an urban planner by trade. So, however, my degree is actually in urban studies and planning, which encompasses 5 areas of policy: land usage, housing, transportation, public health, and public education. And in saying that, I came to Sacramento a couple of years ago. And I started delving into the water because the water just didn't feel right to me. And my skin was starting to break out really badly. So I got a testing kit. And I started, there are 4 environmental justice areas in Sacramento. You have Arden Arcade, well, they say West Arden Arcade, but I'm just going to say Arden Arcade, North Highlands and Foothill Farms, South Sacramento, and I have to remember the 4th one. I'm sorry, but there are 4. I did go around to various places within these areas and tested the water. First, I tested it in my own house. I actually did a video on it. And so I have a Brita filter, a Brita water pitcher with the filter. And I did the water from the tap versus the water that came out of the filter. Now, with this particular test, if you put the Q-tip in there, it has a gold tip. If it remains gold, then there is no lead. If it turns purple, there is lead. As soon as I stuck it in the tap water, it just blew up purple. So then I started going to different parks as children drink from these parks and different and same thing. I think of Flint, Michigan. I think of Mississippi and the things that have happened. And let me also say this, what's in this water of what I've discovered, and I've also read the water tables for each one of these districts. What is very contradictory is the EPA is saying that there is no, and I quote, there is no safe percentage or safe amount of lead to be in the system. However, in these tables, there are allowable percentages of lead, and not only lead, but copper, arsenic, chromium-3, chromium-6, and now PFAS, which is also called a forever chemical. And they are tiny slivers of plastic that have been found in women's breast milk, a multitude of it. And so this is going into the children. So it's called a forever chemical because it never breaks down in your body, it only builds. Also, if anybody was like me growing up, we were told, you got that hard water, just go ahead and boil it. Well, I don't know if anybody's ever really boiled this water, but number one, if you boil lead, it only intensifies the effects, and the effects are, and then I'll just give me 2 more minutes and I'll be okay with my part. With children, I think of SIDS. And I also think of autism, and I also think of ADD, and I also think of ADHD, and here's why. So with children, even with low levels, and this is according to the EPA, even with low levels in the blood of children, the result can be behavior and learning problems. Sound familiar? Yeah. Lower IQ and hyperactivity, slowed growth, hearing problems, and anemia. In pregnant women, you can have premature birth and reduced growth of the fetus. In adults, cardiovascular effects, increased blood pressure, and incidence of hypertension. So, at times we'll go to the doctor and they say you have high blood pressure, especially with the African-American community. And they'll usually try to suggest that this is genetic. And I am strongly challenging that knowledge, because if your parents and parents' happen to have come or been put into lower socioeconomic neighborhoods where contamination exists, then it is a strong possibility that yes, they indeed had it too, but that does not make it genetic, it makes it environmental. Also decreased kidney function and reproductive problems in both men and women. And so in saying that, you know, the chromium 3s and 6s, that causes cancer. Arsenic and copper, same thing. And at the McClellan base over there are 326 contaminated sites, 326 in North Highlands alone. So it's probably a wonder why those trees are really not growing. So with all of that, I really need for our society as a whole to just pay attention to what is happening across the nation. And again, the EPA says that there is no safe level, but if it's not good enough for our paint to be in the paint, then why is it in our water? And lastly, the thing that came out with Mississippi is that those pipes were 70 years old and more. So when these pipes back in the 40s and 50s, that's why it's important to understand the concepts of planting urbanly or just in your community. But these pipes were built with lead. So, and they had a life of like 75 to 100 years. So if they were built in 1950, it's a great chance that they are still there. So at the very least, we should, we should remedy that. And one way to do it is to be able to, anybody that lives in a multi-family unit or complex, that they are accountable for changing their pipes. That's just one. So thank you for letting me speak.
No, I appreciate it, Larissa. And we'll circle back too, because I know you wanted to mention something. I was going to go to Armand. Nicole, is this a question that can wait till the end of our presentation?
Yes, it can. Yes, it
Okay,
can.
great. Thank you. So Armand, I know that you also have done some work on water. I also was hoping that you could talk about what the next steps are, so that you and Larissa can kind of pair up and become a really strong force to be reckoned with.
So I invite anybody who wants to read about environmental justice. If you're not familiar with this book, The Quest for Environmental Justice by Dr. Robert Bullard, it's all in there. And what we can do here in Sacramento. There are many other parts of the state, of the country, that are doing good work. Across the state of California, we're part of what's called the California Environmental Justice Coalition, and that really becomes a good source of policy and support to understand this issue. The biggest disappointment for me is that this is a so-called liberal state where our civil liberties are to be protected equally, and we have access to equal power in decision-making. But as we know, that's why we exist, right? That's why we organize, because that's not the case. So the biggest need here and what we could do together, it's gather enough data to do a civil rights Title IV violation lawsuit, because all the neighborhoods, Black and brown neighborhoods, have unequal access to healthy environments, mainly because of policy decisions that the local county, the local air quality management district, even the local state health enforcers are ignoring. They know very well, they are very well aware of the poisons that we're surrounded by, and yet they're not doing anything about it. The federal government is putting out billions of dollars in infrastructural improvements, environmental justice dollars, and yet they're probably gonna go to the usual suspects in town that are not gonna address our issues that are affecting our health. So I think in having this conversation with the NAACP, we can have a conversation about those dollars going to the right people to create jobs in our neighborhoods and to also develop a realistic strategy that's gonna save our families, rather than just, you know, the same old, right? Business as usual. So that's one start, looking at the legal aspect of this, Title IV violations, but also anything else that improves awareness and training. There is a gap in understanding what's making us sick versus what doctors are telling people or what politicians are telling people why you're sick. It doesn't make sense that child mortality rate among Black and Latina women in South Sac is higher than any other region. There's a reason for that. And so we want to get to the root causes rather than just blaming other issues.
So if I could chime in here just, Armand. So I think what you're suggesting, you're saying, you know, we should gather data and think about a Title IV lawsuit. And then Larissa is thinking about gathering that data using a grant. Isn't that right, Larissa? Is that what the grant is?
Partial, no, not necessarily, but again, the issue with water is an environmental justice issue. So it actually is married to the issuance of the grant and
Okay.
what is expected of the grant.
Excellent, excellent. So at this time, if I can, I know we're running a little out of time. If people would like to raise your hands and ask a question, I will call on you by name when I see your hand. Nicole.
Good morning. Thank you both for an excellent presentation. My question is to Ms. Larissa. You mentioned a Brita filter. When you did the testing, you tested on the tap water. Were the results very much different with the Brita filter?
Extensively.
Oh,
Extensively.
wow.
And let me
Wow.
also say this, we are feeding this, we're putting this in our baby formula. And that's why I say my concern is autism, because it does neurological. It messes with you neurologically, lead does, as well as arsenic and copper. So the one thing that they're not going to talk about, and as a matter of fact, Armand, are you the one that mentioned to me or reminded me that Sacramento, according to the EPA, is considered a lead hotspot?
Yes, it's in the EPA's EJ screen. If you go to the United States EPA, in fact, right now, just to say briefly on this, we filed a complaint to the US EPA about the Sacramento Executive Airport because they use single engine airplanes that still function on lead fuel. So they've been spraying that stuff all over South Sac for the last 50 years. And the EPA is looking into it. Not thanks to us per se, I gotta credit some EJ activists out of Santa Clara County that started the conversation. But when we filed the complaint, the EPA included us in that process and they're keeping us informed that we hope that by next year, they force the county supervisors to ban lead fuel out of Sacramento because they've been spraying that in our neighborhoods forever. Lead is absorbed by your bones thinking it's calcium and it stays with you forever. And that's why it causes so much damage to your intelligence, your vision, your high blood pressure, you name it.
Kidneys.
Yeah, kidneys, it wreaks havoc.
Thank you both. Do I see Miss Betty? I think you have a question, but Nicole, did you have a second question? I'll go on to.
No, sorry, I'll put my
Okay.
hand down.
Thank you so much. Madam President.
No, if Nicole has a second question, that's fine, but this is a great discussion that we don't discuss enough in our area when it comes to water in our communities. And we based on what information you both provided, we are another Mississippi in Flint.
Yes.
And so with that being said, there needs to be some action items that comes out of this discussion. And so I'm asking both Larissa as our chair for economic justice and is it pronounced Herman?
In my effort to decolonize is a silent H, Herman.
Okay, Herman. What action items as far as the NAACP needs to come from this? Because we do need to act on this. And so by having both of you here, what can we do moving forward?
Are you asking me?
I'm gonna start with you, Larissa, yes.
Okay, so as I mentioned once before, any pipes that were built over 1950 need to hold the family apartment complexes, especially. They are the ones mainly with children. They have to be held accountable and responsible. They need to change those pipes. The problem with Mississippi is that the pipes were 70 years old. And let me just say this really quickly. A pipe burst. We've been in the building that I live in Arden Arcade. We've been having water problems. Well, one unit, the pipe burst. She had 2 feet of water. All right. They made the mistake on leaving the pipe outside. And I saw it and took a picture of it. It was the nastiest, most corroded. It looked like things grew on it. So that's how, and with Sacramento being so old, I can almost guarantee that anybody that has buildings, this building was built in 1953. I guarantee these pipes were not changed, which is also going to cause mold. Okay, so I cannot stress enough, please do not take this tap water and put it in your baby's bottle. Do not. And so, and you too, because, you know, with African Americans, is the high blood pressure, hypertension is the silent killer because we don't know what's coming. And so we are being told all these things and force fed all these things, which actually in part are truth, but they are lying by omission. And so our job is, so the next action item is to have the county is sitting on a $4.6 billion budget. I'm gonna repeat that, $4.6 billion. That's just the county. They being the county and the water districts and the state water board, they're all passing the buck. That's public admin 101. I don't expect for anybody to really come out and say, yeah, we're the problem. But what the county supervisors can do is create a partnership with Brita and or Pure and be able to get, creating that partnership, because those companies would love nothing more but to brag about themselves and talk about what they've done for the community. That's a win-win. All right. And so the county, same thing, but we can get things much cheaper. And the goal would be in each one of these areas to pass out starter, what I call water quality starter kits. So one Brita, you know, depending on how many people you have in your house, but at the minimum, one pitcher, Brita or Pure. I prefer Brita myself. Brita pitcher with 2 filters. Each filter should last you about 3 months. So that's 6 months, you know, enough time for you to, you know, taste the difference, feel the difference, and so forth and so on. And so 500 to each EJ area. So between the Holden multi-family unit, start all of them from duplexes on up.
Okay.
Hold them accountable, have them change their pipes. And also the city and or county can offer fee waivers by way of planning departments and whatnot, so that these landlords can actually be able to do this work, you know, with some sort of waiver to make it a little less expensive for them as well, because they're sitting on a $4.6 billion budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Larissa. Let's get together and write that up and submit something to the county. Armand.
If I may suggest, meet with, and she's been a real ally of the community, Dr. Olivia Kasiri. She's very well aware of the public health challenges in this town. She's not a county supervisor, so there's so much she can do, but I think that she's been a great source of information for us to figure out a strategy that involves education, but also delivery of programs, right? Filters, that builds resilience in the neighborhoods. When you're teaching people to filter their water and even their air, we're distributing all these air filters right now in neighborhoods because of the same thing. We got a small grant when we started building them and passing them around. But if we really want to do this to the 580,000 low-income people of our neighborhoods, we need the county to step it up. And they need to put in a plan to cover, you know, over 500,000 people that are living under $2,000 a month. And that includes all kinds of other resources. So I'm happy to meet with Larissa and the key leadership to come up with an action plan and something to propose so we can get these county supervisors to take action on lead. It's a major concern that in fact, there's no late abatement program in Sacramento. I can't understand how that's even a thing, because the federal government is willing to put up money for that, but the locals have to apply for it.
So what I'm going to ask is, Larissa, if you can put, I'm going to turn it back over to Lynn, but Larissa, can you put your email in the chat? Because I know Larissa has been looking for people to be part of her committee for a minute. And after listening to this information, even if you're on Facebook Live and you're interested in joining the Environmental Justice Committee that Larissa is chair over, send us your information. Or send it directly to Larissa, actually, so that when she starts having, don't send it to me because you'll be mad. Send it to Larissa. And so when she has her committee meeting, she'll make sure that she include you. Thank you, Lynn. I'm going to, I know any other questions or turn it over to the jail portion?
Just quick, did you want me to talk about that grant or another time?
Oh, yes. I think part of your duties is to talk about the grant and then give it to Lynn so that we can talk about the jail.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, Lynn.
I just want, before you go, I just want to thank Armand too, for being here with us today. So thank you
Absolutely.
so much, Armand.
Thank you for
And
having me.
Yes, yes. And Larissa, go right ahead. I want to hear about this.
Okay, thank you. Erman, you know I'm gonna call you like I did the other day. Have that extensive conversation. Okay, so there is a grant, and thank you very much. There is a grant that the Sacramento, Greater Sacramento Chapter 1060 has been granted for $6,000 to do surveys and focus groups with the African American community for this round, because they will be coming for the Latino community and the Asian community and, you know, Afghan community as well to do the same survey. But the survey will be regarding environmental justice. And so need 750. I'm not sure what the questions say just yet. I will have that. I'm hoping, well, we're at the end of this week already, going into the next week. So the goal is to have it next week. I certainly will reach out if I don't have it by Friday. So we need 750 to 1,000 completed surveys. And that should be really, really easy to do. I'm not sure what the questions say, but we need that, and we need it ASAP. And I'm going to start reaching out to organizations, CBOs, nonprofits, schools, whatever, in order to get this information. And I'm definitely going to these environmental justice areas because we are the ones that's most affected. And what I've noticed more than anything is that, you know, it's written, the people perish because of a lack of knowledge, and our people really do not have the full concept of what environmental justice and injustice and climate change and the significance and the importance of it all. You know, from the cars that we're driving, some of us, to, you know, which contribute to the air, to the freeways, to all kinds. It's just so much information. And I really strongly believe that once we have the information, we will start to govern our own communities. I'm going to give you the resources where you can go do that. I'm just so excited. I've been waiting for this. Thank you. I'm so just right.
Larissa, let's make sure we get it to Stacy so it can be part of our newsletter as well. Based on this report, it makes me think about how I'm drinking my coffee and putting water in my coffee maker, right? And you said if you heat it up and the lead intensifies versus dissipate. So I'm like, this is some powerful information. So thank you, Larissa. Lynn.
Yes, thank you so much, Larissa. I really appreciate it. So just, I guess I'll just take a few minutes to make sure that we're up to speed with what's happening with the Sacramento County Jail. Many of you know that we, meaning the County of Sacramento, was sued by the federal government the same way the state was sued by the federal government in 2011. We were sued in 2015, I believe, and basically for inhumane conditions in our jails. And part of that has moved forward with plaintiffs' counsel, basically working with Sacramento County officials to come up with a plan to stop that inhumane treatment. There's been a lot of back and forth at the county. The county looks at this like in order to stop the inhumane conditions that they need to build a new jail. However, the reports all show that the biggest problem is not the conditions, meaning the walls and the structure of the jail, even though it's old. It was built in the 80s. Even though the structure is not ideal at all, and certainly no jail is, the biggest problem, more than 90% of the issues that were named in the lawsuit had to do with how people were being treated, not treated by the brick and mortar, but treated by interpersonally. People were made to drag themselves across the floor if they were in a wheelchair to get to the showers or the toilet. There were issues, so there's lots of handicap issues in the jail. There were lots of things about people being just treated poorly. They weren't given sanitary materials, and pretty much anything you could think of that's horrific. You can apply to our Sacramento County Jail. So what we did, we meaning that, you know, NAACP and this greater community with Decarcerate Sacramento really leading the way, was we challenged in 2019, the county's response was, let's just build a new jail. And over time, it would cost more than $1 billion. And it still wouldn't remedy most of the issues that are being called out. So we shut that down 3 times now. We've shut that discussion down, 2019, 2020, twice. And now they're bringing it back again. In 2022, they're now saying, oh, well, we can't figure out how to do it. We're now the consent decree, which is what they call the lawsuit. It's called the Mays v. Sacramento consent decree. Because of that consent decree, they're now on this timeline. And so rather than them doing the right thing and asking for an extension and talking about depopulating the jails for people who shouldn't be in there, we all know people who shouldn't be in the jail. There's just no reason that they're in the jail other than just to punish them. But there's no, and a lot of the people in the jail, by the way, are also very ill. And so there was a law just passed to help those people. But I think it's really, really important to recognize that we have a fight on our hands coming up, maybe as soon as November 8th, which is also election day. How kind of our Board of Supervisors to have this potential fight on the same day that we're supposed to be at the polls. So don't let it slide by us. We won't know until the Thursday before if it's going to be on the agenda, because they do not make the agenda public until the Thursday or Friday before their Tuesday meeting. So we have to be prepared to call in on November 8th if they put it on the agenda that they want to build a new jail. And instead, we'll have talking points that we'll make sure that everyone has so that people can understand the background. But the bottom line is the new jail is not going to solve the many, many issues that have to do with the treatment of the people in the jail. The goal right now is to depopulate the jail, get people treatment. More than 2/3 of the people in the jail have been determined to be mentally unhealthy. They need mental health care. Those are not people who will get better by being punished in a jail. Among those people, more than half of them are unhoused. And so again, a lot of the people who are unhoused, they're sent to jail, but they really are not doing anything terrible. It's just that they're unhoused. And so they do what they have to do to survive. Maybe they urinate in the street. That's not supposed to happen, but where are they supposed to go? And so they might get arrested for that. All kinds of things that are like that, and people are in the jail. And so we're looking for these alternatives, and that's what the talking points will be. So just be prepared for this coming up. We'll make sure that you have everything you need before the Tuesday meeting, but keep in mind it will be a quick turnaround because we won't know until that Thursday or Friday before that Tuesday, November 8th. So we have 2 things to do November 8th or by November 8th, vote, and then look for those jail talking points. That's it.
Perfect. I'm so glad you reminded everyone that you need to vote on November 8th. I know ballots are going to drop on the 10th in a couple of days. So they are scheduled to drop on the 10th. And so we are going to have a flyer. I don't know if we can show it now, where we're going to be co-hosting along with some other organizations on all 7 of the propositions that's going to be on the ballot. I would like, if you are interested, make sure that we have your email either in the chat, but if you're part of this, especially on Zoom, we already have your email, so we'll make sure that you get the information, and we'll also go out on the newsletter. I just want to remind everyone that every second Saturday, we have our general membership meeting that has town hall events such as this one, where we highlight issues that affect our African-American communities and others. And so we as the NAACP would like to share that information and create action items, not just share it, but do something about it. Early on, we have our executive commit, our general membership meeting, business meeting portion, which you may have missed on Facebook. However, some of the quick highlights is probably the school suspensions report that's going to come out this week. where San Diego State is doing, is it their second or third round of suspensions, Lynn? I can't remember if this is the second
This will
one.
be
The
their third report.
The third report. Sacramento County is still coming up #1 as suspensions for African Americans. The top 3 schools, the top school district of suspension is Elk Grove. The top 3 schools is Medberg. I'm sorry, the #1 school is Samuel Jackman. And then after that, it's T.R. Smedberg and then Sheldon. All 3 are in Elk Grove School District as far as expulsion and suspension for African Americans. And Jackman is the highest. They have 195 African American students who have, and their suspension and expulsion rate is 53%. So we will be addressing those, as well as some other issues is that you may have seen in social media regarding Yuba City High School and the African American Black football players being on the auction block as slave owners, and the white players are bidding for them. So we will be dealing with those issues as well. So as a reminder, if we can put up our flyer, that if you are ever interested in joining the NAACP, it's only $30 for a year membership. If you're interested in voting during our election process, that will be next month, always the second Saturday. However, next month, we will not be having a general membership meeting because it will be our election day. And from 10 to 2 o'clock, those of you who are eligible and active members of the NAACP will receive a ballot in your email. And if you don't have an email, it will be sent to your cell phone via text. So we will be not having a meeting next month due to the election process. However, we will resume in December, where we will also be celebrating Kwanzaa. If you would like more information about the NAACP, feel free to call or text. She answers text quicker, but call or text at 916-856-0155. And to become a member, just go to our website at naacpsac.com, click the button membership, and follow the instructions from there. Any other announcements that I may have forgotten before we officially adjourn the meeting? Hearing none. The last thing I'm going to say, remember to vote November 8th. Remember to vote November 8th. Thank you, guys. Madam Secretary, I'm officially adjourning this meeting at 12:16. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Lynn, for bringing this information forward. There's been some powerful two months that you brought forward. So thank you, Larissa, Irma, everyone that participated. God bless.
Bye, everybody.